Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Just Jump In live stream. Appreciate everybody showing up on a holiday weekend, an outdoor holiday weekend, no less. So let me know if you can hear me. Most often our audio issues are my thing, but say hello in the chat. Even if you're going to lurk in the background, it's nice to know who's here. And I appreciate everyone who is with us every week. It's awesome to see. And we have JP in here. He was the first in and gets the virtual cookie. And Gopher Girl, hello. Welcome in. Got the dogs taken out right before the live stream, so hopefully it won't be too much barking. There will be probably some barking. Thank you, JP. Appreciate it. We may certainly hear some barking since it is the 4th of July. Often local fireworks go off and things like that, and that'll scare the dogs into barking a lot. Bill, hello, welcome. Yeah. It's 110 in Philly, Bill. I'm sure I'll hear about that from my mom too this weekend. But yeah, we struggle with the dogs every year, and it's mostly the local fireworks. We can hear local people fireworks, not local shows. We can hear the local show from our house, but that's not usually a bother. It's the local firecrackers and fireworks going off that usually is a problem, but knock on wood, we haven't heard much at all so far. So you know I would. I was thinking about using our garage as a layout area before we really understood how small it was going to be. But I would have insulated it and put heating and air conditioning in it if I was going to do that. Mostly, it would be heating that would be needing to get done. So you have to insulate the right way and all of that. Never went ahead and did that just because we just didn't have a lot of work. So, did you get to see the 4014 bill? Did you find a good spot for it and everything that wasn't hopefully overcrowded? So, yeah. So again, welcome everybody. And remember to let me know what you're working on, or let everybody know what you're working on the workbench. Boy, I'm glad I moved away from the East Coast, Bill. It's warm out. It's definitely warm out here. In Minneapolis area, but not that warm. So it was a pretty warm day today. I was out this morning, and I'll show you some things that I got this morning as well. Hi, Mom. Welcome in. Yeah, and I one of the things I really want to learn in 3D CAD drawing is how to draw some of the natural curvatures of furniture. I'm just not good at that yet. Was the initial cost, JP? Was the initial cost expensive to insulate and get AC in there, or is it just the electric bill that took the hit? Art, welcome in. Happy to have you in here. Welcome back. You did like 2 convention runs in a row, like really close together. So, been watching your updates from the N Scale convention. That's been a lot of fun to see. Although I'm not N Scale anymore. I kind of feel like I want to do that so that I could complete a layout that I really want to complete. But it was the electric bill. I really wanted to keep wanting to go back to N scale so I could just complete the actual layout with the stops on the layout and all the action on the layout. But I can't get my hands can't handle building such small stuff. So working on that would be out of the question for me. So I keep saying I'm going to have to go up to S scale next because both my hands and my eyes are just not very cooperative. So, well, yeah, Mom, that's the idea with the articles. Well, with the glue article was I was just so frustrated. I wanted to have a reference, and I thought everybody probably it's one of those silent things that nobody really complains about or says, well, what is the real drying time? So that was the hope. I hope it helps everybody. And so and so I should ask a fellow S scaler in here. Build is it do you do a lot of scratch building for that or kit bashing? And does that help? Does it help the scale help get those things done over something like HO? So yeah, good luck with that, JP. both my brother and I moved back into our house after college, after jobs started and everything. We all had the need to move back in, so we could manage to get a better chance at starting up. Ray, welcome in, Ray. Appreciate you coming in and saying hello. You've been quite active with your podcasts and with some traveling, and with so your online presence also seems to be growing, and seeing you more around. So that's nice to see. Okay. So what was I going to look for? I was going to quick look to see if the Fusey was updated so people could read our region letter. Let's see. So it doesn't look like the latest one was uploaded quite yet. So I'll have to put something out. You can actually review the older newsletters and the articles, certainly, that I've put in there. But it doesn't look like the latest one is there yet. If anybody is really interested in getting a jump on reading online, I can send you a copy very easily. So I'm still able to do that in a little bit in HO. Yes, the detailing though does get tedious with that, but if I keep saying that, then I'm going to go to S scale and then complain about that. Then I'm going to go to O scale and complain about that, and G scale, complain about that. And then at some point, I'm going to be building 1-to-1 locomotives and cars and be complaining about that somehow. But yeah, so I don't think I've ever heard the term linear pretzel. So yeah, if so how is it going with the layout there, JP? Not that I've ever heard of a linear pretzel. So let's also go out to here real quick and check this out. So, all right. So to see JP's YouTube channel, you can do what I did there. It is just you can search at BHS by JP. And you'll find them there, or you can just type in the full direct URL, except it doesn't want me to, Bill. It wants me to type in everything on your description for some reason. That should be the link there for JP's layout. He also has a link to his Facebook, on his channel. All right, so let's jump in a little bit to the things from this last week since we last met on Friday. So let's start with this is probably the second time I've done this. I'm just doing this for fun. I don't usually do take home hauls, but I did last weekend after the show on Sunday. I think I went, maybe it was Saturday. I went to our local hobby shop, Scale Model Supply. They're moving and they have this back room filled with stuff. And they keep adding to it. They have brand new stuff, but they also have stuff that was collections that were sold to them. They just have years and years of stuff. And so they've offered, I think it's a 50%. It's a 50% discount on everything that's in that back room. And to my surprise, there's a lot they didn't take out of there. Unfortunately, somebody got to. I decided I was going to buy. They have other models and things too. It's not just model railroading there, but they have back room with a bunch of used models, open models, models that were started. And for some reason, from my childhood, I remember a model that my brother got. He was a Star Trek fan, and by virtue of him, I kind of was too. And there is a model, and I'm sure anybody from this generation who knew Star Trek and knew modeling would know when they saw this model. But it was a plastic model of the bridge of the Enterprise, and they had it there. Somebody had started it, and I've been walking past it for years. And I went back and I'm like, I'm just gonna get it in ode to my brother. I was just going to I was even thinking of getting it for him. But of course I went back and that one was gone. But I had been eyeing this engine because this is one of the ones that I want to model. So I've been eyeing this engine for a long time and it hadn't moved either. So this is a pre-owned model. It's a Bachmann Spectrum model. Spectrum models, those are the ones in the dark boxes that you can't see in them, and if they're sealed you can't open them, and so you never know what you get on the inside. So that always annoyed me about the Spectrum models, but this one was there. It was pre-owned. They guaranteed everything operated. They had a test track if I wanted to test it there, but I trusted that it would, other than its age and sitting there, would probably run. So they've had it listed at $50. It's a DC engine, and has the beacon lights and headlights and taillights. And the headlights and taillights weren't working. The beacon lights are working, and it runs. I did test it at home, and it runs, and I just cleaned the wheels and things. Everything on the inside's pretty sealed, pretty tight, so there wasn't a lot of anything with it. It had just been sitting. So because it was 25% off, see, it's listed as $50. I still got the tag on there. I got it for $25. So it was just, it was a no-brainer to do it because I can either do something with the shell, like I can make this a New Jersey Transit train. With the few decals I have left, I can make it as similar as possible to a New Jersey Transit train, or I could leave it as is. And then run it as New Jersey Transit. Now I bought the same type of train and it was that Mark version, which is Maryland area transportation. Also cheaply from another hobby shop to get for the purposes of just modeling it. And so I already have a shell that I've started on it. But with this one, it was just like, if I don't modify this at all, then I can run it as an Amtrak train on my layout when I eventually have one. So, but it's the same one that I've been modeling off of, except this is, I'm sorry, this is the T from Boston. Actually, it's not Maryland area transportation. So there you go. This one's obviously more beat up, lots of stuff missing from it. I do have the, I think it still runs. I think I have the, because I was working on the shell. I only have the shell around. I don't know what I have the chassis packed away somewhere. So, hey Randy, welcome in. Where are you this weekend? Are you traveling? So I picked that up. So I was kind of excited about that. They're actually, it's hard to see that they're clearing stuff out. They're using that sale, but they have a ton of storage space in the location they're in. And so they just keep bringing out more and more stuff to put in that room. But they're selling. Anyway, so there's that engine. Find a spot for that. And then this morning, because I didn't sleep a lot and was up at an ungodly hour as usual, nothing new, I went to one of the local Hobby Lobbies, and I had nothing to buy. I had nothing I needed, but I still had some cash I could burn. So I picked up one of these, and these are a misting bottle. So it's not a straight stream that comes out. And most people like these for model railroading. So I said, at $4.50, I'll give it a try. I've looked in like Dollar Tree to see if they had a cheap version of it, and they haven't, not at least in my local one. So I went for it. And I didn't have a particular super need for this, but I've wanted one because I'm always asking, like, what color of things should I buy, or should I paint stuff? And I'm always annoying Gopher Girl with awesome, Randy, at the campground up in the Spirit Mountain campground. That's awesome that you travel like that during the summer. And into some of the colder months too. I've seen you do that. Anyway, so I went ahead and bought this color wheel, just to understand, what colors go with what colors, and maybe what shades and tones to use, and give some explanation of color schemes, and it gives explanation of definitions. Of some of the stuff, and that can be helpful in figuring out how you want to color something. Literally, like if you want to figure out how to get a rust color, and you can use a color wheel to do that. I have more paints than ever that I need, and I started doing that thing where you buy them for one job. But then I also got the primary colors, and I have those so that I can mix paints. And I use acrylics just from, because I have so much trouble with fumes and things like that. So buying acrylics has been the safe way to go. And so I've been known to mix paints to get the right color. Now I have something that I can really reference instead of my eye, which can fool you in any, depending on the light and things like that. So I figured that was a good use of wasting money, as I do on Hobby. And then at at Hobby Lobby, at Michael's, any of those, I'm always checking out the clearance aisles or clearance shelves and stuff. And Hobby Lobby has them in many places along their different sections, and I go through them all. So right over by most of where the hobby materials are, I found this. It is an axle guard, so it's this plastic axle guard, and it was on the clearance wall for 39 cents. But what I got it for was the 12 screws in it that I will use for couplers and other needs. And they're Phillips head screws. And they're a good length for what I need as well. They look like they're 256 screws. If they're not, they're close enough that, you know, I can drill the right hole or whatever. But 12 screws for 39 cents. And then these two axle guards that I can potentially find some other usage for was a win. If I walked out with just that and I didn't make my I don't know, luxury purchases of those $15 of luxury purchases, I would have been happy to walk out and been like, I found something really useful. So that was my haul for the last 2 weekends so far. Anyway, because I should say that, you know, we as a company had off today, but I also took a few extra days because the in-laws were here. So, yeah, one of the things one of the things that I've been learning with colors and things is that, you know, you don't always use, and like you said, in this case, you use the white to help with fading, but you don't always use white necessarily to lighten a color. You may use another color lightens it, and that's something that would help with the color wheel. So perfectly happy with that. It's a little bit of money, but it's fine. So then heading into the 4th of July weekend or week, I wasn't super excited about the holiday, about the 4th of July, about America's 250th birthday. But I remember I would have been 4 years old, well, 3.5, I believe. But I still remember it was a big deal to have the 200th anniversary or 200th birthday in 1976. And I also remember that, you know, quarters, the bicentennial quarters, to this day, if I see a bicentennial quarter, I even though they've issued a million different quarters now, new styles and fancy looking quarters with fancy things on them, if I see a bicentennial quarter, I get excited. I was always told you had to hold on to those and that they'd be worth money. They're probably worth 25 cents or maybe less now. But that was a big deal back then. So I remember that as little as I was. So I went ahead and looked to see if I could find America 250 logoed decals, and they're out there. There are a couple different companies that make sheets of them. And I also was looking for flag decals too. But you don't do that a week before and there we go. So let me do this. Let me go back and so let me this I figured out, so you can hear me, I'm sure, still, and I'll get back here. I forget what I did each week. I got some advice as to what this might be, and I knew it could still happen, and I still have to work with the I still have to work with the work with the settings on my computer. So give me a sec here. Where was it? And anyway, so I'm not going anywhere here, but I still want to show you what I'm going to show you. So I've got to, let's just see if I can fix it the way I did last time. Let's see if it was. See if it'll pick it up again here. There's something I needed to do specifically in the settings. There we go. It's almost like I had to go back in. So before I have, so the issue seems to be around, it could be a couple things, but it's some settings on the computer that could be drawing power from the different USB ports. Normally I plug in a hard drive. I use a USB Bluetooth connection with a Logitech mouse. And then I have my Yeti microphone plugged in. And with that, I don't know if that's the issue where it's using too much resources. And so supposedly there's a setting that may feel like that there's too much power being taken or too many resources being taken from all those USBs not being used. So I didn't plug in the hard drive this time. So this has 3 USB ports. There may be other things that are drawing from it. I don't know. But I wasn't able to find the settings last time. And so I'll have to continue to look for them to see if there's a way that I can keep the power from being drained and from the computer shutting that down. But so there's that white screen that comes up, and that's what it's doing. It's resetting or doing whatever, and it turns off the camera. So I had to go get the camera restarted. I had to turn off the camera connection. That's also Bluetooth from my iPad. So you're seeing top down from an iPad that's hanging above, and so all good fun. So yep. So and model railroaders, painters, it doesn't matter. Other scale modelists, the folks that do Warhammer and paint those, they all use the color wheel. So I thought that was definitely a good use. So anyway, back to the America's 250 thing. It's like I said, I haven't been excited about it, but I wanted to do something. So I took to my Tamiya tape, and I knew this was not going to be an easy thing to do. I'm sure there were a bunch of things I could have done to make the paint job not really bleed too much. But I went to taping out the stripes And so I taped the area of the flag first, and I did a white primer, and I used the Vallejo primer. So I used the surface primer on it, and I had it taped all around with Tamiya and with blue painter's tape. And then I went ahead and put down the Tamiya, I think it's 1 millimeter tape, to create the lines. And shockingly, I estimated, I put out, I taped it down first. I put out strips of tape as close as possible to what it would look like with the 13 stripes. And you can see that there's a miss here. If anybody who is from the US may know this, they may not. But with the 13 stripes, there's actually a red stripe on the top and the bottom. So in my estimation, it was too much, and I have the extra white. So I technically need to paint this blue again with this blue color, not that blue color. Then I put a piece of tape over this to cover that so that I could paint the stripes and everything. Hey, Brad, welcome in. Appreciate you stopping in. So anyway, so I still need to do something with that, which means I could cover up some of that bleed. But you can see bleed throughout. And the problem was that Tamiya tape, so thin and small, can't handle these millimeter thick edges. And so it bled through too easily with the paint. So you have this all that bleed. So, and of course, I wasn't going to do this on. This is a 3D printed model that I printed a long time ago. So not if I need a new one of these, I used it as I was practicing decals. So I used it for decals. I used it for painting practice, weathering practice, to get the right color for the Coil car. I was using the top of this. So this is my practice car. So I don't care what happens to this, and went ahead to make that. I was thinking of a way to do stars that wouldn't be, I could really just dot a few stars to make it look like something. I could use a technique where you're flicking the paint on, and so they would be somewhat random or whatever, but I didn't get anything on there at this point. And but I wanted to do something for our drunk uncle at the helm of the and to celebrate 250, because I would be super ecstatic to hit the 275th birthday and beyond if I could, but I don't know if that'll happen or not. So I actually wanted to, be a little civic minded and say, that I care about our country and all of that. And so that's what I did for it. So it's a little something. So from far away, it doesn't look quite as bad. But yeah, so any of those decals were going to take a week or two to get to me. So I wasn't going to have it in time. So from there, as you can see, these are all pretty small projects. From there, though, it was about getting back to finishing the cars for the CARS certificate. As what I went to the hobby shop for was for potentially for trucks, even though I don't really need them because I have the 3D printed ones. But I wanted to see if they had 38-inch wheels, which were what were used on this, just to be as prototypical as completely possible, even though those are from a evaluation and merit standpoint, wheels are um, not they can be commercial and everything, and they don't really count towards it other than having wheels on there that are railroad wheels. But it would help with conformity, which is a big score that as part of it. And so they don't actually sell any 38-inch wheels, and it looks like there are a couple companies that have 38-inch wheels, and I'll have to order them online from one of the retailers. And the trucks, I don't see or haven't seen on my internet research or anything. I haven't seen 150-ton trucks, which is what they're saying were used for these cars. The 150-ton trucks, the closest I've seen is 125-ton, and I think the Tangent model of this uses 125-ton trucks, which I'm sure would be fine even in the prototype world or whatever. So that's lesser of a concern. I'll probably end up going with these 3D printed trucks because I believe they're considered 100-ton trucks. I don't know. I don't know if it's the springs that are the giveaway on that or not. If we were actually prototyping them, but they have I forget what these are called, but it has non-spinning covers to the axles. And then it has the 3 springs designed into them. And so I've been told before that they're like 100-ton trucks. And so that should probably be able to handle a car like this with the cushion, the Hydra cushion set up underneath. So to finish that out, I'll have to order the trucks on there. So the other cars I was working on that I need to fix are the gondola and the 3D printed version of the Coil car. So on the gondola, what I really wanted to fix was one was the symmetry in the wheel sets and where the bolsters were. The bolsters very far forward on this side, and there's still other issues with that. There was adding a second hole so that these can flow through underneath instead of over top, so that it didn't interfere as much. Also, I needed to actually remove the ladders that I was attempting to do because they weren't coming out through 3D printing. You can see I just added one here, so that'll be an added commercial detail, I guess. This one was actually, I mean, I could actually say, create a ladder like this and make that a 3D printed scratch built part if I wanted to, or I could just add it, since you need 90% of the parts to be scratch built, non-commercial. And so I went to work on the underside. So I don't remember exactly this was I was trying to fix again the location of the bolsters, and so these were a couple printouts that I did, and I was trying to fix the thickness of the bolsters. I wanted them to be larger, and then now I had from the original the original model setup or the directions from the clinic, the Lone Star Clinic, it wasn't even this thick in the middle. It was different how this looked, but I made it wider so it could take the screw better, but it was still giving me trouble. And so I went ahead and started working on fixes for this. And so we're going to have to show you up close. This was the first one, trying to make this work. And I think this is just like a millimeter higher, but I wanted something higher also to help the wheels sit just slightly higher than this. These are very low, which also hinges operation between some of the wire underneath, but also how wide it can go. If it's hitting, in this case, it was hitting the coupler was being hit. So I wanted to give it some, I wanted to get it, oh, geez, as it went flying. I wanted to get it kind of higher, like you have this angled bolster, these angled center beams up into here. I wanted to get this much higher to kind of get close to that. And so I did get some height to it. Again, sorry for the blurriness. It's not all the way up because I didn't want it to be so high that the wheel sets didn't have a little coverage, but I did certainly get that higher up there as I worked through it, but it still wasn't thick enough to take the bolster, to take the wheel set and the screw in the wheel set. So why don't we do it like that? That's probably better. So I was able to then figure out how to get it widened. And so now there's plenty of room and quite a bit of height. I could still play with the height a little bit more, but here, and these aren't broken off or anything. I just printed it, used less filament that way. Not that it's negligible, the amount of filament, but I use that. So I spent some time working on that, and I'm actually impressed that these coupler pockets fit right and everything, but that was done earlier. So kind of coming back to it, it went from this to this, and this will be much more operationally helpful. So that was that. There, the other thing that I found, and I'm gonna see if I can keep this close up and see if you can see this. There's actually detail in here. This is almost like this should be able to be come down, or it was just bolted together in a way where there's kind of a loop here, and you can't see it on the print. You can see on the bottom, you can see there's a hole there. That's designed to have a bolt go through there, and it's like a sandwich. It's like two outside ends and then the inside end of this to connect them. You just can't see a bolt there. I could design something, but the problem with that, with this is this was printed upside down, so it's gonna not have any real detail on the top here. Something I could try to add after the fact with like some kind of I don't know, something, but you can see I did rivets on here, so those printed. I just can't do them on here because it's on the build plate flat. But anyway, so it's built like a sandwich. Well, when I took a closer look, if you look at this one on this side didn't print the underside piece there. And from a printing perfection standpoint, the top piece, you can see that wasn't missed, but it wasn't printed well. Either way, that has to be fixed. I looked on this side and it's correct on here and it's correct on here. So something happened, something got lost in translation on this specific end, or I was doing something else that affected that. So I'm not sure what, so I have to, that'll be the next problem to tackle. And if I do that, hopefully we're really close to the end on this one as far as the build. The only other thing I would probably do is this is one piece. This is a separate piece in the middle. So this is mainly three pieces: the four walls of the gondola, the bottom of the gondola, and then the underside. Three different pieces. So when I print them out, I might want to print two of these, and then I can weigh weights flat in here, and then have the at what we call the false bottom on top of that. And I don't think it'll be a major effect, because most of the time we want to see these filled with something. So I'll likely create a load to put in here anyway, so it won't matter with that. The other thing we can avoid is having too long of a screw go through the bottom. That's certainly adjustable on my part, but that's from the coupler. So just a couple more fixes with that, and then the finishing touch. Then I'm gonna have to print a finished model, or finished pieces, and get them together. I'll have to print out more of these details and get the details on the underside done, and then of course the finishing with lettering and stuff will need to get done, and that will be that one. So then we moved to the 3D printed gondola, or not gondola, the 3D printed coil car. And let's do this to show you where we were at. This is where we were at with the coil car. Here's a comparison. So pretty close. And I wasn't happy with the size between these two trough pieces, and the where the bolsters were located. So I wanted to fix those. Let's see if I can show you real quick. Hello, storyteller. Welcome in. Nice to have you in here. So let me see if I can show you a drawing real quick here. So here's the drawing of the that I have of the gondola. And so you have some, while it's, you could measure it out and figure out exactly where the wheel sets go. What you really can see is the center of the bolster, where the bolster is. The center of the wheel set is right underneath the the end of the last trough. And I didn't quite get that. So yeah. So, and those couplers are standard. They were Katie couplers. I think I put number 5s in them. What did I put in them? They're a little bit exposed, which I don't like, but I was having trouble fitting the specific ones I needed in there. I use 1/48 across all of my cars if I could help it from Katie. But for this, that's where the wheel should lie, and then it has some spacing and understanding of how that should be set up. So if we go, let me see if we can I switch these out? Nope, that's not helpful. So yeah, let's stop that for a second. I have to learn how to switch them around so that I can show both and show the one smaller. So if you look at where the center of the bolster is going to be, it's all the way over here. So I wanted to fix that. Also to get it. Now, I don't have as much of an issue as I would have with this one, because with the Hydra cushion setup, you have the extension of the couplers, and I actually saw sets of these. They weren't super detailed or not as detailed as these, but the hobby shop had a set of, like, I don't know, 12 of these or whatever, but it extends out, so it wouldn't be quite as much of a problem. So I didn't think that through, and I didn't try and keep it prototypical. But you can see on this one that I built mostly from styrene, or remember the bolsters are 3D printed. I actually did place them where they needed to go, just about. And that was all through measuring. That worked out, which doesn't usually work out for me. So as you can see, these are way off. And so those needed to be fixed. And again, what you'll notice here is how far forward these still look from a coupler standpoint. But again, remembering that the coupler is much further out would help if I showed you the right side. And don't mind the print. The print was a draft print, so it's kind of ugly looking. So you see how that needed to be fixed on there. And it's not perfect. And this print wasn't perfect either. And here's another one that was a rough print, but you can see the bolsters fixed in place where they should be. And so I've basically fixed that issue. And then the other part of it, what I fixed first was you can see holes in here. That was a simple issue from the 3D print program that I needed to just click something I didn't click, so those had holes in them for as finicky as it was. So looking at the older version, that's the coupler spacing, or the trench spacing. Now looking at the newer version, here is the trench spacing, which is all four were slightly altered, and we kept the one in the middle the same. And that's much better spacing. It's not perfect unless what I can do though is make smaller loads of coils. So the issue with these coils that I printed online, I didn't look at specifically at size of the coils, but those fit. This is what this would look like on here. So that wouldn't do. These fit much better in here. Now, still too high, but fits a little better. That fits a little better. And of course, that one fits. That's just like 1/100 of a millimeter difference than that one and that one. These are equidistant though. So the other thing, the thing that I wasn't able to model, as each of these troughs about halfway down, they kind of jut out a little bit more of a long angle, so that these have more to sit on, almost as if it's the same issue where they're going to sit high on these troughs, and then they have more surface to sit on that way. I wasn't able to model that accurately, so I didn't do that, but I got these better, and I can certainly print smaller. I can reduce the size of these. I can try and create my own and reduce the size a little bit so that they fit a little bit better in there from a show standpoint. But these are now properly spaced, essentially. And so I worked on that, and it's amazing just to get the right spacing and more even spacing, the amount of math that you have to do that. It wasn't as easy just to do it in the CAD program itself. So I had to do a lot of math and back and forth and get them to basically the bottoms to these are 0.432 inches apart, except for the ends, which are 0.433. But that's the most even that I was able to get. And from a printing standpoint, with filament printing, with even the smallest lines, there's going to be slightest of variations to them, but it should be closely accurate. So I set about fixing those issues and was able to do so. And so we're going to work on as much detail as we can as possible on these cars before we have to put on the Hydro Cushion setup on the bottom, and painting and decaling. And there has to be some more detail put on these ends, and we'll see what we can do to do that. That is, in a nutshell, the work that I've been doing. Yep, Shapeways is very memorable. The biggest thing I remember, and the biggest complaint from people from them, was the cost, because they were a shop that did all kinds of projects, and that was just part of their business, to do one-off prints for people. But now you have a number of sites that you can go to. The ones that I think of, because I see them most, are Colt's 3D Printables, which is from Prusa, and Thingiverse. And I forget which company owns it. Is it Ender that owns Thingiverse, as far as just ownership of those things? But Thingiverse is probably the most publicly known and vast thing. And all three of these sites, there's purchasable 3D prints and free 3D prints. And there's a site called yegi.com. Let's see here. That's a mega site, a meta site, I should say, which you can search in there for any 3D prints you want to find that have been made out there. Both you can filter too. I always filter on the free ones. I'm still not yet comfortable, even though they're not a lot of times not very expensive. They're pennies on the dollar. Sometimes I'm not super comfortable with paying for files, because it's my own work that I would be concerned about on them, and not being able to maybe fix something that's not printing correctly. That's kind of cool. Are these? I thought they were getting rid of 3D printed items and files from eBay. Or do they still have 3D print files, or just 3D printed objects that people are selling? That was a mega store for people who would they would make a deal with a designer, and designer would send them the file and they would just print them, and they'd have some kind of print farm, and they'd go to craft shows, they'd sell on eBay, things like that. All these movable parts, these dragons and things like that, and anything you can find to sell. People have done that, and I know that was a big hit on people who used eBay. But I like Yegi for finding stuff, and then when you click the link, it'll send you out to that page. And sometimes people post on multiple ones, so you might see one for Thingiverse and Colts 3D and print on whichever one you want to print, or click on whichever one you want to click on. For HO scale folks, one of the people I would recommend that you check out if you're into getting free very high quality 3D prints in HO scale is his name is Kim, and it's Cab Rumble. By searching for him, you can find him on there on Thingiverse. I think it's Rumble. I think that's what it is. I can always check. I have him saved. I showed you the print I did of, he did a bunch of Merchant's Row style 3 building prints that look fantastic. And I printed one of those, painted it up, weathered it up and all of that. And that's was on my layout that no longer exists. So I have that building from him, and he prints stuff all the time. And I know he takes requests because he just likes doing it. He doesn't charge for anything. He always says he wouldn't mind tips because you can tip on there. But he doesn't force anybody to pay for his work. He puts it all out there, and it's fantastic stuff. Let's see here if I can find him. See, he comes, a bunch of his stuff comes right up, but I just wanted to get to kind of show you his page of stuff and all the things that he makes. He's got pages and pages on here of them. So let's share. And let's get rid of me. And let's see. So you can see how elaborate he builds these and makes them, and then you print out all the files, and then you're going to glue them together and everything like that. But all kinds of different things that he's put together, and there's just pages of them. And he's done a series of the I thought about printing potentially like this, like trucks like this to see if I can make them into a maintenance of way type of high rail vehicle. Then he did these Main Street modules. He's got a full set of road system that he's built out. All kinds of detail parts. And like I said, a lot of it comes from requests from people. There we go again. So with that white screen of, it didn't pop the camera off, it looks like, but you can tell me if it does. But again, some different stuff. I want to see if I can find you. Here's like Main Street 3 background building. So he does a background building for people that are interested in just a smaller bit. Here are I think this is the one I built out, which is number 6 to 8 Main Street. And he's got 10 to 12. And so he's got different designs. He's got them individualized and everything. This is a background building. I actually printed out the full building, some arches for what he calls McDaniels. So let's see here. Tons of stuff, and it prints really nicely. I had mine was an error because I didn't have it sealed. Like I didn't have the build plate sticky enough on the edges because some of these walls are bigger. But I mean, it's incredible how these come out. So let's see here. We need to get me back on. Well, we don't necessarily need me on. So let's see here if I can figure out how I did this last time. You'd think I'd have this down now. Let's see here. We can look at that while I make sure that you can see not that you see me or anything, you know. So, okay, let's see. Still need to settings. Oh, I needed to do it on my end. That was it. I needed to turn that off and then come back with that. All right, let's see if that worked. Let's see, here goes nothing, as they say. And yeah, we're back with the So I don't know Thomas very well. I hate to disappoint, but I was not of the Thomas generation. I'm a little bit older, I guess. So I never took to Thomas. I worked with kids before who liked Thomas and liked trains and had the Brio wooden track and everything. But for me, I just don't know a lot about Thomas, although there's a podcast that has talked about Thomas trains because he was influenced by Thomas. And they've talked to people who've been part of that world. And so it's been interesting, but I just don't, personally, I don't have experience with all the trains and the names of the different engines and stuff. So, and so I haven't looked for them in 3D print, in the 3D print world. But that might be interesting to do, to see what you can do with that. So yeah, that's what I've been working on, and I'll continue to do some work through the weekend to try to get these cars even closer, hopefully. The layout has sat now for a little bit. I'm still trying to determine if I want to just put the foam on top of how it is now, or if I really want to cut out those thin boards that are the top of the layout and figure out what to do to put stopper in the legs, which would raise them up just slightly if I did that, or I could cut down the legs. But again, it's work that I'm really not keen on doing at this point, and would much rather maybe keep it as is and maybe just put the foam on top and work from the foam. So I'm closer to that than I am to pulling up the pulling up the, I don't know if it's a half inch. I think it's half-inch board. It's not plywood. It's like MDF board. So that's why it's warpy a little bit. It's not as solid as plywood. So if I did that, it would put the foam could handle that. It's an inch thick foam insulation board that I have, and I've so to measure everything out that needs to go underneath, like feeder wires, and I have one switch machine that I've used. So if I'm using switch machines, I'd have to make sure that the wire is long enough, and usually I think that they are. That hooks to the turnout. Even if they're not, you can put in your own music wire for that, and so you can get whatever length. So I don't think that's a problem there. But I've just got to get working on it, which means I've got to get working back on the building here. Whether I continue to use styrene or I 3D print. I have to, as you can see, this one's came off of the off of the one. I think this was the first version, not the second one. The second one, the walls seem to be intact because I did a little bit better. But get back to that for the New Brunswick station for the centerpiece. So on these two modules, you would have this one being very close to the end of one of the probably the end of the left side module. And then the station platform would extend out onto the right side module. Technically, if I was going to build out the full station platforms, I think one side's like 1,000 feet and the other side's like 900 feet or something in there. I have the measurements somewhere. Would be way too long. Regularly, New Jersey Transit, Amtrak have 10-car trains that will. Amtrak sometimes has smaller for slightly smaller, but they're usually around 10 cars between just even passenger cars, and then the engines on the end of them. So I think from a compression standpoint, I need to try and make it as long enough for at least like 5 passenger cars to make it kind of legit-ish. And so that's going to take up both modules, but so I don't know if the module to the right will. So the station, the end of the platform coming into the station is on the short end of it, and then the platform extends far out from the right side of the station if you're facing the station from the street. So that's kind of the setup. So I have to fit it right on the left side module so that you're not taking the building apart when you're removing the modules. And I don't have to design this as a mobile module layout. The idea of modules is that I can fit them in the space I have, and then when I need to move, or hopefully move, that I'll have the ability to easily or much more easily move them instead of taking down the whole layout and having to rebuild somewhere else. That's more of the idea than making it a showpiece that I take places. The modules I built the way they are super heavy and clunky, and the legs I built are super clunky. I would love to do metal legs if I could. Because you can make those out of metal or other composite materials that are hey Shady, welcome in. That are more that are sturdy and can handle the weight but are lighter. So anyway, so those are all dream sequences that I have when it comes to the layout. My reality is I have this rickety setup that just barely fits what I need. But the hope is I can at least maybe do the prototype scene and get away with the size because it's going to be way too big and I even would want to compress the platforms a little bit more. I think I'll have to measure out the 5 cars, um, because if I actually build this out into a full layout eventually, I don't want that platform to be taken up. It's all going to be compressed anyway. I'm not going to have the room for every station on the layout. So my idea would be to have 3 key stations, and that's Trenton, New Jersey, which is the entrance and exit to southern New Jersey and a major stop before Philadelphia, and then New York Penn Station, where Amtrak and New Jersey Transit and Long Island Railroad all converge on southern Manhattan. And so I've already prototyped a tunnel, because the New Jersey and Amtrak coming from New Jersey side go through a tunnel underneath the Hudson River into Manhattan. So I've already produced this as a prototype, and what I would like to be able to do, either it actually acts as a tunnel that goes downwards, or more likely it'll be a straight flat tunnel on the module. And so I'll have to build a scene of the tunnel entrance scene, and then I'll have to build above the tunnel level, which will be above the by this much at least, build above it. But what would be neat is if I could show a subway stop or something underneath there too. So that's probably the way I go. And from 3D printing, I came up with this design because the tunnels, when you're going through, have the track down here and have these ledges, and then it is rounded. So the tunnel's rounded all the way around, but then has what they put in to level the track. And I tested it with the locomotive and everything going through on track. Probably can't see this that well, but it will fit with, especially in black, you can't see it very well, but it will fit even with the track height. I made sure it'll fit through there. So when I get to that point someday, I'll have to dig back to my 3D print files on that. So that is where I'm at, and I appreciate everybody hanging out I didn't even think I got the crowd I got today. So I really love the loyalty and appreciate it. As you know, if I'm not monetized on YouTube yet. I don't know that I'll ever be. I don't put out enough content where I'm getting close to the subscriber count. I've never had the viewing hours for any type of revenue from YouTube. So I have put out there that if you wanted to donate to the channel, which I'm currently got a few donations, and I'm working on, and I forgot to put this up, but a reminder to throw in the chat here. And even if you come back and watch the video, or if you are watching this as a video, to tell me what your favorite online retailer is. I'm going to do a giveaway on the 100th show, which is coming up in a couple weeks, and so I want you to make sure that you put into the chat now or after the video, on the comments, what your favorite online hobby shop is, because what I want to do with the donated money is I want to be able to give away a gift certificate to online hobby shop. And the reason I'm choosing an online hobby shop is I have viewers from around the world. And so it's not easy to do. It's not all local viewers. So I can't go, I would much rather you be able to get what you want and maybe take a bite out of the shipping than me buying a model at this point, which I don't have enough money to do, to then also ship out. So at this point, I don't have that level where I can do that. I hope to get there someday where I can give stuff away all the time. But to celebrate the 100th episode, I'd like to do that. So again, throw in the chat here your favorite online hobby shop, or in comments after the show, or if you're watching this on replay, throw in the comments your favorite online hobby shop, so I can have a chance to do a giveaway on that. So with that, I'm gonna say, have a very happy 4th of July and safe 4th of July. Let's not blow up anybody's hands, faces, or anything like that with fireworks. Be safe. Do it safely. Let professionals do it if you can. Have a great cookout. I think we're gonna cook in. We're gonna have hamburgers this time around. We've had some. Oh, we got the refrigerator. So I forgot to mention that real quick. We did get our refrigerator. It works beautifully. And in the meantime, we've been using a cooler, and we've had hot dogs a lot. So, um, um, so, um, that's going well, but instead of hot dogs, we're gonna do hamburgers tomorrow and French fries. I bought waffle fries, which are some of my favorite. I like having a lot of potato in my fries. So we're gonna do that. I want everybody else to be safe. Yeah, Bill. I'm modeling the 80s and 90s, so I don't have to worry about the anything redone right now that's going on, because they're doing a lot of maintenance on track and structures for Amtrak, New Jersey Transit, and commuter stuff. So I can stay away from that at least. But it's interesting what's going on with the Portal Bridge and the tunnels and the funding and all of those things. So, but everybody be safe, have a lot of fun, celebrate America's 250th, those outside of America. Um, have a great weekend. And I think Canada Day was just happened. So for my Canadian friends celebrating Canada Day, happy Canada Day. And remember to just jump in and have a great rest of your weekend, everybody.